am truly grateful that we have come together, the South and the North. Out of this gathering, we are going to continue to work in a strong way and not allow any more people to die and suffer in the hands of what has oppressed us for 500 years. I tell you to the world, le digo al mundo, do not suppress and hurt our people anymore.
Good morning. Good morning to each and all. Today is the date, July the 12th, 2020, in the Gregorian calendar. Called that because of Pope Gregory, who modified the Roman calendar. And this month, after Emperor Julius Caesar, this month July, now they call it, this is 2020 in that calendar. And what you're looking at here today is the freeway, Interstate Highway call number 10, crosses across the whole country. And this is the section in the state of Arizona that cuts through this valley. The valley now known as the central part of Phoenix, Arizona. This is actually a riverbed. It's actually a river bottom. All of those stones that you see there, all of them, you see how they're shaped. Some of them are sharp. Some of them are well-rounded, and they might have started sharp, but they achieved that curve and that smoothness and that roundness because they journeyed to this location from that direction. Why? Because that's upriver. This is a valley called Valley of the Sun now because the river's been stolen. It was stolen by the Mormons in the last century, and it created a situation of starvation for the original nations of the original peoples of this territory, the Alton peoples. They lost 6,000 people of starvation at that time. But when they built this freeway wasn't always here. In 1984, there was a gathering that took place in this location right here for 4 days. And at that time, that freeway was not there. It was just a construction site. They were building it. When they got to this site, when they got to this location, they discovered that there was a location of an ancient homestead, an ancient village of the original Alton peoples, the original nations that had been living there, alongside the river, in the desert, alongside the river and the sand dunes, an original confederacy of peaceful nations that had coexisted and even to this day are still present here. A confederacy of peace that had lasted 2,000 years, built upon the foundation of the cultivation of corn, agriculture, and trade with the other indigenous nations of the territory. The village that was here was excavated to make way for this freeway. Hundreds of bodies were desecrated and removed. Thousands of artifacts were also extracted, and they were sent to the museums. They were sent to the Arizona State Department of Archaeology. And then finally, some of the human remains were sent and returned to the reservation folks. Phoenix, Arizona, this is it. But if you look that way, and if you look that way, that's still Alton Reservation territory. Salt River Reservation on that side, Gila River Reservation on this side. But here, right here, this is still Alton territory, even though it's not a reservation. This is still original territory of the Alton nations. So when they came here in 1984, they came from all four directions to make a understanding, to make a stand against what had allowed such desecration, to make way for the white man concept of progress, development, commerce, instead of following the original route, a journey of the waterways, of the rivers of life. This river that went through here 365 days of the year and traveled from the northern reaches of what is known as the Colorado River watershed. The most northern part of that is way up there in Montana and Wyoming. And in the eastern part, that reaches to the Gila River in the New Mexico side. Those riverways that traveled through this valley joined up in that direction. Over there they joined up and they connected. After traveling 200 miles through the desert, they connected with the Colorado River, and then they went south to the Gulf of California, it's known now, into the waterways of what is now Mexico, the ancient lands of Mexico, the original confederacies in Mexico in the south. And from there in the south, those people, those nations would travel with those waterways across the desert. There was food, hunting, water, game, water. All the way up through here, the traveling was done. All the way through here, going through here, and continuing on north up into the New Mexico area, the Pueblo country. From there, the exchanges were made with the feathers, with the turquoise, with the copper bells, the turquoise stones from the north that went south, the macaw feathers that came south that went north. But all of this history meant nothing to the people who had desecrated this site in 1984 when they were building this freeway. The people who gathered here in 1984 looked at the situation and realized that this was a continuation of the original invasion that had begun on October the 12th, 1492, and they determined then, at that time, from here, to make a stand and do something about it, to make a declaration about it, to make a consciousness that was intended to reach each and every shore of every continent of this Mother Earth, and living consciousness of every human being, to create that understanding that this is not correct, it's not right. We can't be dehumanizing our ancestors. We can't be disrespecting them. We can't be doing that to them. We will be doing the same thing then to our future generations, and they will be done to us too. Therefore, from this gathering, an alliance of original nations was forged for 4 days, and on the final day was like this. It was the sunrise of the spring butterfly sun. The spring, the Tanes Papado, the butterfly sun of the spring equinox, they call it. It appeared on that day, the final day. And the message was sent in that direction to the east, to the Vatican, to Pope John at that time. As the originator, just like Pope Gregory in the calendar, Pope John, the Vatican, the papacy, the papal state, the Vatican Bank, the religion, the Roman Catholic religion, they had normalized, they had allowed for the normalization and the desecration of our peoples for 500 years, colonization and genocide, beginning with the concept of the doctrine of discovery, 1492, October 12th, with Christopher Columbus, then formalized with the papal bulls of Pope Alexander VI in 1493, and the same thing taken forward with the Treaty of Tordesillas, which allowed what is now known as Brazil to be colonized by the Portuguese. That's why Bolsonaro, the president of Brazil, he speaks Portuguese. He doesn't speak Spanish. But it's the same genocide, the original very same genocide of Christendom. The determination was made, the declaration was made, the communication was sent, and it arrived at the Vatican, and they responded. They responded through their Secretary of State of the Vatican. As I said, it's a state. They have a State Department. It's a country. We met with them. We sat down and spoke with them. But the issue has still not yet been resolved. One of the evidence in that case today is the question of Oklahoma, land of the red man. But the Oklahoma case, which was decided by the U.S. Supreme Court just recently, but was that really a decision? Or did they just decide that it was okay for the U.S. Congress to create reservations in a territory that never belonged to them in the first place? If it was really the land to be taken back, but now, where did the land go then? It never went nowhere. What's being manipulated is the consciousness and the reality of the people who live on the land, with the land, which is us, and that is all of us. Because there is no economic system that doesn't depend on the ecological relationship with Mother Earth, with the water, the waterways of life, the wind, Father, Son. What you already know. Therefore, 4 days they stood here. 4 days they gathered. They spoke with each other, and they spoke with the wind, and the wind spoke with them too at that time too. So loudly the wind spoke that even to hear each other we had to shout in the spring of 1984. And there was only a few of us, this many that you see here now. Not that many sometimes, maybe 20, maybe a whole bunch of us, but it was a whole bunch of us, only 20 people. But among those 20 people, in between the spaces of those 20 people that were there, the winds came. The ancestors rose up. They rose from the dust of their rest, from being among the ancestors of the past who had died. They rose up again, those who had gone before, and they emerged with us on that day in a great wind that circled us with the dust of time. They dusted us off and sent us on our way. And so it was from there, from here, that time that we began our journey. And it took us to the first continental encounter of indigenous pueblos, nations, and organizations, the indigenous peoples, in 1990 in Quito, Ecuador. That happened in July the 17th, July the 21st of the year 1990. 30 years ago today, in 6 days' time. The reason for this video. Yesterday was the 30th anniversary of the assault on the Oka defenders, the defenders of the same thing that we had stood up here to defend against in 1984. Yesterday, 30th anniversary of the Oka. In 6 days' time, it will be 30th anniversary of the Continental uprising that took place in Quito, Ecuador in 1990. For 4 days also, there was an uprising at the national level, at the regional level, at the continental level, based on the teachings of the eagle and the condor, the prophecy that was brought forward. And at that time, the fire was lit. The continental indigenous spiritual fire was lit again. The spirit of the eagle, the spirit of the condor, Kundar Anka, the future generations of the elders, of our manfolk, of our womenfolk, of all of our folk as they may be, the younger generations, the future unborn. The fire was lit 30 years ago, and therefore the message. You were there. You were there. If you were there, the Lakota, the Aymara, the Quechuas, the nations from all the continent gathered there. If you were there then, 30 years ago, now, today, we're asking you to prepare yourself. The fire is about to be relit. It has been lit all along. In 6 days' time, in ceremonial manner of commemoration and preparation for the fall, Dual Papalo, the butterfly sun of the fall, September the 22nd, 2020. September the 22nd, 2020, the cycle will complete itself again, and the next cycle of emergence will carry forward. The fire will be lit. The fire has been lit all along. The fire will be relit once again in commemoration, not in any one single location, but throughout the whole continent, the east, west, north to south, coast to coast, in that illumination, in that nationhood of the Izkaloteka, the nations who have survived the 526 years of colonization, genocide, will once again turn to each other, just like we did here in 1984. We will reach out to each other. We will sing, pray, dance with each other, and once again re-emerge, emerge, and re-emerge to take our place among the destiny with the stars of the original nations of Mother Earth. Semanawak, Abya, Yala, Tonantzin. Legends of the Izkaloteka, Tupac, Huehuecoyo, Ayo.